or Heart Awakening Buddhism, Buddhist legends. Just I mentioned briefly in the other video about if you look at the similarities, the Buddhist stories around Buddha's birth, and then compare the stories, the legends, the myths of Buddha's birth to the legends, the myths of other religious people's births, you'll see an awful lot in common. Like when Buddha came out of his mother's womb, it was the angels singing, and he pointed one hand to the floor and one hand to the sky and said, "Oh, in all the earth there is no one like me." The miraculous signs that existed around Buddha's birth. If you look at the miraculous signs that happened, that allegedly happened around Krishna's birth, Krishna in India, and also Jesus Christ's birth, and even Saint Nicholas, like Santa Claus, the man who brings the presents on December the 25th. If you look at the legends and the myths around all these miraculous births, then Buddha's birth story just fits squarely amongst all these myths and legends. And the legends around Buddha's birth story, they're obviously not true. They're obviously untrue. So I would just like to say that if we talk about reality, then it might be good to seriously ponder that lots of stuff that the Buddhist community talks about is untrue. Here's one other thing. The Buddhists widely talk about the first Buddhist council, which was allegedly held shortly after Buddha's birth, because there was a breakaway. The monks were becoming corrupt, and the good monks wanted to keep Buddhist teachings pure so that later generations of Buddhists could follow the true teachings which Buddha gave. I'm sorry, but that's crap. The story about the first Buddhist council was invented at least 300 years after Buddha died. It was written about in Sri Lanka. And even some orthodox Theravada monks acknowledge that much of what it says, what the legends about the first Buddhist council, if you like, it was a political endeavour to strengthen the Theravada school against the rise of the other Buddhist schools, especially Mahayana was beginning to rise. So by creating these myths and legends about the first Buddhist council and Ashoka sending missionaries to Sri Lanka, it was all, there's no evidence for it. It's all just myths and legends. And if you look at the allegedly historically accurate Sri Lankan book, I'm forgetting what it's called. I forgot, but it talks about demons and demons under the sea and Buddha flying from India, and where Buddha landed in Sri Lanka, stupas mysteriously appearing where Buddha's foot touched down. It's all these Buddhist legends, and they're all highly questionable, and many Buddhists just accept them as valid and true. To make things simple, I say there was no first Buddhist council, or if there was, the story about it has been grossly exaggerated to favour the version of events that the Sri Lankan Theravadas wanted to expound. One thing, for example, if you look at the Buddhist legends about Devadatta and how he was the son of the devil and went to hell and tried to kill the Buddha, and how he was cast out after the first Buddhist council, that's what the Theravada stories say. But if you look at history, and the Chinese pilgrim, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but travelled around India in the 6th century, he discovered that contrary to what the Theravada traditions say, that around the Nalanda University there was thriving communities that followed Devadatta. So he wasn't an evil person that the Theravada says. He was a wise person who had wise teachings, and consequently his teachings flourished. So, and even the doctrine of Paccekasamuppada, if you look at the historical account of how that evolved, so I just want to say to Buddhists, a lot of what traditional Buddhist teaches is not true. It's not true. And I'm going to post some more videos, and this is just a spontaneous video, but I do think we need to, as Buddhists, we need to look at the truth and to differentiate between what's superstition and what's truth. Okay, thank you. Bye.